If you are a fan of Steven Universe and or have a soft spot for Disney, cause why wouldn't you? You some kind of sociopath? Then you should consider buying our brand new hoodie/t-shirt on Teespring. Bam! Look at that design. It's so adorable. It's a mashup of Steven Universe and of course the famous log moment from The Lion King. These are only available until December 22nd, so be sure to pick one up just in time for the holidays, either for a friend, family member, or yourself, cause you should get yourself something nice every once in a while. You deserve it. You hear me? You deserve it. The art was done by my boy Michael Fortman, aka Sir Fluffy Fox, so be sure to check him out down below as well. He does awesome art. But yeah, buy this thing. It's a cool thing, and you'll be a cool person if you wear it, or whatever. Okay, enjoy insert video here.
Hey everyone, this is Haley from Cartoon Universe, this time bringing you a theory that was brought about due to the latest episode of the show, 3 Gems and a Baby. At first glance, it does not appear that there is much that can be said about this episode. It does not appear to be too significant with respect to what the crystal gems are currently dealing with. But there may be in fact a few small details that can be taken as evidence for a new theory. Which is pretty cool considering that there may be more to this awesome episode than just being a flashback of something that occurred when Steven was a few months old. So to start things off, I want to bring up the question, what day does this episode take place on? Much like Gem Harvest, a specific holiday is never mentioned, but in Gem Harvest, because of the themes such as having a big meal together with family, it can be concluded that this episode was meant to be for Thanksgiving. And in 3 Gems and a Baby, despite it never being directly stated, this is most likely a Christmas episode, and the flashback may have even taken place on Christmas Day. This can be assumed because the gems bring presents for Greg, much like relatives would at a family gathering. But there are also a few other things that definitely need to be mentioned because this episode takes place on Christmas Day. And these things lead me to a larger theory that I'm covering in this video. The first thing I need to show is this scene from the episode. Now this may not look like anything significant to some of you, but for those that have learned about the story of Christmas, this may spark some interest. What we have here is Greg holding baby Steven while Garnet, Amethyst, and Pearl surround him. But the important thing here to note is that Greg is wearing a blue poncho. For those who may still not see how this could be leading to anything else, compare that scene to this image. This is the classic depiction of the birth of Jesus, or the nativity scene. In it we can see the baby in the middle, who's held by his mother Mary, who's wearing a blue mantle, and is surrounded by 3 men. I don't know about you, but I definitely think that these two scenes have some very interesting parallels. Continuing the connections between the two, like I said earlier, the 3 gems bring gifts to Steven that don't really have much use to him. This is exactly like how the Magi, or 3 wise men, bring gifts to Jesus when he is born that were not very practical for a baby. What can then be taken from this very interesting parallel is that in many ways Steven can be compared to Jesus. Looking at the parallels between the two, I'm actually quite surprised I've not made a theory about this before. It pretty much took the show to quite literally shove it in our face for most people to make theories about it. Because when you start looking for similarities, a lot can be found. I'm not extremely knowledgeable about religious topics, but I did some research, although you guys can always point out things I missed in the comments below. So to begin, Jesus was said to be the figure that bridged the gap between humans and God, and Steven is literally said to be a fusion of a human and a gem. Jesus had many purposes, a lot of which do have a striking resemblance to what Steven does. I'm going to list some things off, but I would like to note that Steven was probably not born to do any of these things really. In the past, I did speculate on why Rose created Steven, but it has become increasingly clear that there was no ulterior motive to her actions. It is most likely that Rose just wanted to create a being that could grow and change, something that does not come naturally to gems. But, as I just said, Steven's actions and decisions throughout the series can be seen as similar to those of Jesus. So here are some instances of these similarities. The first one is to save the world. He's already done this by stopping the cluster from forming. There are probably going to be more instances of this in the future, but this was the biggest instance so far. Then there is to testify the truth. He is able to show homeworld gems like Peridot and Lapis the truth about Earth by showing them what an amazing place it is, and through his actions they no longer have faith in homeworld. He also heals people and cracks gems, much like with Jesus and his healing abilities. And if Steven is the one who will eventually heal corrupted gems, then perhaps a parallel can be drawn from that to Jesus taking away a sin. This is especially true if he can eventually heal Jasper, who is currently corrupted, and made a lot of bad choices before becoming so. So there's all of that, which if you ask me is quite a bit of evidence. With all this in mind, it got me thinking, are there other religious parallels in Steven Universe? I think there might be. So I compiled a short list of things I found because I do find this quite interesting. Rose's decision to rebel against the diamonds can be seen as equivalent when Adam and Eve ate the fruit from the tree of knowledge of good and evil. Once they did this, they became self-aware and free-spirited. When Rose found out the truth and later shattered Pink Diamond, she severed her connection between herself and Homeworld. Back during the rebellion, I could see the 4 diamonds being compared to the 4 horsemen bringing the apocalypse. The apocalypse in this case would be the corruption song, although at this point there were only 3 diamonds and not 4, because Pink Diamond was shattered. I also find it interesting that Lapis Lazuli sounds a lot like Lazarus. Lazarus was the man who Jesus raised from the dead, despite being buried for 3 days. Lapis Lazuli was brought back from her damaged state when Steven pulled her out of the mirror she had been trapped in for thousands of years and healed her gem. Jesus resurrecting Lazarus was a symbol of his power and possibilities, which makes it really interesting to see how freeing and healing Lapis was the first big thing Steven did that is connected to the overall plot. Then, in Buddy's book, we see that Rose was found in a desert, which may be a comparison to the Sinai Desert. This was a place where Jewish people roamed for many years until getting to the Promised Land. And in this situation, the Promised Land could be Beach City, the final destination of the crystal gems. So those are all the similarities I found so far, but who knows, there may be more. So now it is time to return to the main part of this video, which is Steven's connection to Jesus. Now there is one huge thing that I've yet to mention that happens to Jesus that is very important to his story. This is the fact that he dies. Simply put, Jesus sacrifices himself to protect others. Now this may seem like I'm jumping to a conclusion, but there's definitely more to this. It is possible that at the end of the series, Steven will be poofed. Steven may be the one who gets hurt while protecting Homeworld gems from their mistakes. Of course, as we know, Jesus does come back to life after 3 days and then later ascends to heaven. But this does give hope that Steven will come back and stay back. This is, after all, a children's show, and having the main character die permanently is something that could probably never happen. And much like a resurrection, gems can regenerate. This of course brings up the argument if Rose will return if Steven is ever poofed. At this point, we have no idea what would happen, and even Steven questions this. But I think at this point, it is very unlikely for Rose to return. If Rose returns, that would be the same thing as killing Steven because he would cease to exist. In addition, a lot of the show has been showing how the characters have been moving on from Rose's death. This is something that has happened a long time ago, and has been said to be irreversible. For all this development to be simply reversed would defeat a lot of what the show has been trying to set up when it comes to showing the theme of loss. Alternatively, it is possible that Steven will not get poofed at all in the first place. Perhaps he just gets hurt really badly or is knocked unconscious and his body simply does not have the function to poof like a normal gems can. In that case, it is possible that Connie could be the one to save Steven. She knows how to use a defibrillator, which could bring Steven back to life. Or considering the fact that she literally swallowed Steven's spit in an indirect kiss, it is possible that she could heal him in some ways through their first real kiss because she may possibly have retained some of Steven's healing powers. This is really cheesy, but it is definitely something to think about. As I have shown, there are quite a few possibilities, but either way, there is now quite a bit of evidence to point to the fact that at the end of the show, or perhaps at the end of a Steven-centered arc, Steven dies in some way, and will eventually be brought back to life. So what do you guys think about this theory? Tell me in the comments, and if you have not already, make sure to subscribe so you can stay updated on all our latest theory videos. We will be doing more Steven Universe videos, of course, with the addition of many other cartoons as well in the upcoming weeks. A big thank you to FTAFP, who wrote the Tumblr post that inspired a big part of this theory. Check out their Tumblr, which has many more intriguing theories, which I will link down below. Also, as I do in every video, here's a huge shout out to all of our Patreon supporters. For this video, I would like to personally thank Felix and Zeke Guy for recently becoming Patreon supporters. Even the lowest reward tier gets a shout out like this, so consider becoming a patron to help support future theory videos. Thanks for watching!